Hey there, my name is Brandon, and I'm a husband and a father of three, and I've been a follower of Jesus Christ for the last 19 years. And it was 19 years ago that I put my faith in Jesus Christ. It was the most important decision I ever made, and it was life-changing, and it's still life-changing today. But I hadn't always grown up with those beliefs. I grew up with my mum, who was a strict Catholic and churchgoer. She used to take me to church every Sunday. I often joked to my mum it felt like being dragged to church. I joked I still got the scars from being dragged to church. But I remember going to church with my mum, and I really didn't enjoy it. I almost felt like I hated it. I just felt like, why am I here? I didn't understand it. I didn't care about those big questions in life. Is there a God? What does he think about me? All I cared about was basically myself, making sure I was happy, making sure I was having a good time. I remember when I got to secondary school, I just stopped going, and effectively that was me and God finished with. But when I got to maybe 18, 19, early 20s, I may have been pretending to the world around me that life was great, I was having a good time, I was living the dream, I was filled with confidence. That's how I wanted to pretend to people. But the reality on the inside of me, I was the complete opposite. Instead of confident, I felt very insecure. Instead of happy, I felt very depressed. And there was a lot of things that I hated about my life. I think it stems down to my childhood. I grew up just with my mum. I didn't know my dad. We grew up in a nice town in southwest London, but we lived on quite a rough, quite a hard housing estate. And I remember growing up on that housing estate feeling a lot of fear, never really feeling totally safe. As long as I could remember in the 80s, me and my mum were the only people of colour on the street, and there was a lot of racism around. So from a young age, I always felt less than others, and I always felt the need to prove myself to others and find acceptance, to find people's respect. And so I got very good at a young age pretending, wearing a mask, not wanting to show any sign of weakness because I felt if I did, then people would reject me. And the problem when you're wearing a mask all the time in your life is that it's very tiring because you're always having to pretend to be someone that you're not, but it's also very lonely as well. I remember growing up, I was always easily led. I would do what my friends were doing, and often they were doing the wrong things. I remember we would go to the park and we'd be smoking and drinking and taking recreational drugs. And I only did it to try and kind of fit in. But I remember, I don't know when it happened, something changed. I suddenly realised getting absolutely smashed and oblivious on drink and drugs, I kind of felt like it was giving me the kind of confidence that I was looking for. And I often found that it was escape. It was giving me the happiness that I was looking for. And so I kind of dived into that lifestyle. It almost became a god to me. But the problem is when you're abusing drink and drugs to make you stronger, the only thing that it does is it makes you weaker. And my mind was quite frail and fragile anyway, and it only got a lot worse. I don't know when it started, but suicidal thoughts creeped into my life. And before my conversion, for many years, I can't remember one day when I didn't think about ending my life. There were a couple of times that I did attempt to do that, but I thankfully can say that God had different plans for me. But I remember one particular time in 2004, I did take an attempt on my life. And I remember after that, just probably the most lowest moment in my life, thinking, my life can't go on like this. Something's got to change. I remember being ending up in a YMCA hostel because of what had happened. And I remember that they were going to discharge me as well. And I remember getting on my knees and praying to this God that I'd rejected years ago. And I remember saying to God something like, if you change the way I feel, I'll do anything for you. Like, I'm yours, I'll do anything for you. And God obviously honoured that prayer. He was with me. Not long after that, I moved home, and my two new neighbours so happened to be followers of Jesus Christ, born-again Christians. And we befriended each other. And through that friendship, I started to learn about their faith. They would talk to me about this person, Jesus. We started to pray together. We started to read the Bible together. And things started to change. The first thing I noticed that when my friends prayed, they would call God their Father. I never knew that God could be a father, and it was really attractive to me. And also as well, we went to church. It felt very different to my experience of church growing up. And over that summer, all I could say was that the God that was kind of here, that my mum raised me and was kind of there, was now in here. It was an amazing feeling. It was like falling in love. I describe it like a piece of lost property finally finding its home. I remember that actually from that moment, I've got purpose in life. My life is not for anyone else. It's for God. It's to live for God. And from that moment, I just felt this desire, Lord, I want to change. I want to change for you. And like I was trying to prove myself to people, I now thought I needed to prove myself to God. I'm going to stop swearing. I'm going to stop drinking and doing all those ungodly things that I was doing. But there I learned the message of the gospel. I learned that actually I was a sinner and God was holy, and there was nothing that I could do to earn his forgiveness. But in his love, he sent Jesus Christ, his son, to die for my sin on the cross, to take the punishment in my place. And he rose again, and what I needed to do was to repent, to turn from that sinful lifestyle and put my faith in Jesus. And if I did, then that relationship would be secure forever. And that was probably the easiest decision I could ever make. I felt like there was nothing to leave behind. And from the moment I put my faith in Jesus, God started to make some huge changes in my life. The biggest change is he started to change my desires from the inside. He just gave me this desire to do what was right. As I read the Bible, I just wanted to obey in every way how I could obey God. He just started to change my desires, and he started to give me the power to live a new life that was pleasing for him. He gave me the power to leave that destructive lifestyle that I was leaving behind, and he started to put new things into my life that I always desired, but I never thought I'd be able to have. I met my wife, we had a family, and I remember as well that I had a real desire to share my faith with people among the homeless community. And I was led to a ministry called Weber Street that was run by London City Mission, and I worked there for 3 glorious years, sharing my faith and sharing the love of God with them. After those 3 years, I felt God was calling me to be a missionary with London City Mission, and I moved to Dagenham, and I've been here since. And I'm actually now a pastor of a local church. God has done things in my life I never ever dreamed of, and I just give him all the glory, all the glory. I'm not saying my life is perfect. At times, I sometimes still struggle with my emotional health, but God helps me with that. But the biggest change is that God is with me. God has led me to do things, and God has led me to certain things in my life that I wasn't able to face myself. And at times, they were really hard and really challenging, but he was with me. He gave me the strength to go through those things, and it's made me a better version of who I am. You know, when I was younger, I thought being a Christian was boring. It meant you had no life. And that's actually the complete opposite of what it means to be a Christian. Jesus says that I have come to give you life and life to the full. I've experienced it, and I believe that he will do that for anybody else. If you're listening to this and you don't know Jesus, you don't know the Lord, I would encourage you to come and investigate him, to get a Bible and read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, which is about the life of Jesus. And if you feel like you're like me, you're at that place in the gutter and you're like, I need new life, I urge you to repent, to turn from whatever you are living for and put your faith in Jesus Christ. I promise Jesus never fails. And I'd encourage you as well to find a local church, to tell someone about the decision that you made and be part of that church community. I hope this encourages you. And like I said, Jesus came into my life, he transformed me, and he can do it for you too.